The Thick as a Brick rhythm guitar part takes full advantage of the 32 bars now that you have to play over. And to do that, we use space. As you can see, as we've gone through these solos and these jams, you can see the rhythm guitar part gets more sparse, especially as the time extends like this. We went from 16 bars to 32 bars, and now we're playing less and less and less, especially in the beginning. The idea is when the jam starts, there should be lots of space, for the rhythm section, with you included, to really open up something and develop something and build it. And that's great for the soloist, who should be doing the same thing in the beginning, getting out those catchy lines in the beginning and trying to climax to the ending of a great solo. So what's going on here in the solo, the rhythm guitar part, is we got that. Well, first of all, we're in E minor. So our one chord now is E minor, and it could be iterations of E minor 7 and 9 and this and that. And then our four chord is going to be A7. We're starting off with that solid minor 7 abbreviated voicing. And that simply just gets hit on the downbeat. And that's it for that bar, outside of maybe a little anticipation scratches into the four chord, which just simply plays on the downbeat once again with 2/16. So it's this call of, and then response. That's the jam. That carries you through the first 4 bars. The next 4 bars, just take that same idea and just give it a little push. So the E minor 7 ends up doing a succession of 4/16 on the first beat with a little response. That's it. So these 2 sections of 4/16, one on the downbeat, one on the upbeat of 3, with some scratches in the middle. Nice variation and still keeping a lot of space. And the 4 chord answers it. Same thing. Lots of space. And almost nothing going on after that outside of that one stab on the upbeat of 3. Now, if you feel your ghost stroke starting to release, and you got a little time, especially in those first bars, bar 1 and 3, where I just played nothing. I just hit on that downbeat. You don't have the ghost stroke going. You're okay. You got to pick it up when you need it, but if it gives it a little rest there, that's okay. If you need it to stay in time, well, then you got to use it. But the more comfortable you get, the more you'll get out of the ghost stroke thing when you don't need it, when you have that much space. All right, so we get through the first 8 bars. Now remember, we're in a 32-bar solo here, a 32-bar jam, so we're in 4 sections of 8. But you'll see each one of those sections definitely has a theme. So the second section of 8 gets into thickening up that sound with the minor 9. And we're playing that variation of the hemiola that we've learned. And we're playing it with that minor 9 to substituted dominant 9 chord by way of minor 7 flat 5 that we've learned. And you'll notice that sometimes I broke up the chord and played just the bottom note of that 4 chord, where it was, instead of, it's just giving it some movement. That's all it's doing, but it's keeping the same rhythm. So you have 4 bars of that, 2 pairs of 2 bars there where you establish that. Second half of this second set of 8, I change it up completely. I shift, it's almost like a downshift into second and taking off in your speed racer car thing there. And I throw a curveball with the hemiola. I bring down the syncopation, or the amount of chords being played, because that second iteration's got a lot of action going on right from the beginning. Whereas now, all of a sudden, boom, I come down, get into that low gear, and I stay there for these 4 bars, getting ready for a complete change into the third set of 8 bars. So, and I'm also having it on the high E string, where I play the higher inversions of the minor 9, and I get that really cool tight A7, where I get that tight dominant 7th voicing on the top strings. Some slides here and there just to break it up. There's ones to really watch out for here. Where you're in that set, you're in that third bar of that set of 4. It's an interesting way to apply those slides, where they're following each other within a set of 3 with a scratch in between. But if you have the ghost stroke going, it won't throw you off at all. Now, you're getting into your third set of 8 bars. I anticipate that on the upbeat of 4, and I'm coming into that bar 17, with that. Right on the downbeat, bada boom. And then from there, it's a funky hemiola, really. So sets of 3 16th notes, those groups of 3, but it started on an upbeat because that's a downbeat right there. So you got and a 1. I never answer the hemiola with the doubling up as we've done. It just stays straight 1 chord stabs, and it's all sequences of 3. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and then I walk into the 4 chord and do the same exact thing. Keep that going for 2 sets of 2, another 4-bar statement, half of our third set of 8 bars, and that gets ready to bring in a different rhythm feel, upping it to getting back to that intensity I had back in the second set of 8 with. But this time I split it up with some 8th notes. So starting to show some different variations of syncopation based off of the 2 main riffs that we've been working off of, the hemiola and the variation. Take that, play it through 1 and 4 chord, do some top note variations on A9, get some of that melody going back and forth between the 9th chord and the add 13, and that gets you into the final section of 8 where I just truck right on through with these higher voicings here of minor 9. Same thing with 9 add 13 for the 4 chord. Do it again in the next section of 2 bars, but I break it up at the end of the 4 chord where you just have this. Little power wrist technique there, and that's getting ready for what's going to happen in the final bar in bar 32. So after you get through your successive 16th notes with carefully placed dynamics and that wavering seesaw type of feel that we've seen in the past in rhythm guitar parts. The way we're going to end that off in the last bar with the 9 add 13 is we're going to give a beat and a half of this and then do a power wrist single note riff on the bottom strings and just slam right into that E minor 7. It makes for a great ending. And it's just a simple minor blues line or pentatonic line with the flat 5. You know the ending is coming. That's a good thing. If the soloist is given the nod, the rhythm section know it's coming, you help make that a definitive end with your rhythm guitar part. When it comes to the thick as a brick solo, we have 32 bars to blow over. Now, I've been preparing you for this 32-bar romp, starting in Hybridlicious Power. What I did there is laid out a plan where you could play smart licks, coming out with a catchy lick, developing it, power wrist picking to build up the drama, hybrid picking at the end to make a great ending. Those are all essential techniques to be able to survive a 32-bar solo and play something meaningful. That's something that people can remember and the band can grab onto. So in these 32 bars, we're going to take that template that we've been building since Hybridlicious Power, one that we made into a modal thing in Modal Mothership, and we're going to take it here and add some great stuff, mainly double stops in this solo, and stretch it out for 32 bars and make not one moment boring. It's supposed to be fun. It's funk music, and that's exactly what this is. So let's take a look at it. The catchy lick in the beginning is still the same exact formula, except this time it stretches out to be 8 bars. So we still have those basic statements starting off, but this time it's all filling in the gaps. You remember we're in E minor, so our root position E minor is right here, and we're using those 2 junctures and just filling in the gaps, just using some passing tones in between. One of them's the flat 5 from our blue scale, but the other ones are just, major 3rd, major 7. It doesn't matter. It's just the chromatic idea. And then we answer that again, just like we answer that in bars 5 and 6 with, and there is that great transition, that half-step transition, in this case from flat 7 to 6 over the minor 7 chord. So that chromatic line is a great way to walk in. It's something that's immediately catching and very cool. One thing about it, notice how I pull on the last 16th of beat 1, I pull that flat 3rd. Just gives it a cool elastic feeling and something that you don't see coming in a succession of 16th notes. Now, in between that call and response, there's 2 bars of its own call and response going on, where I just come and slam down on the E string, something I started to establish in the first solo in Hybridlicious Power, but I didn't do that until bar 5. But here I'm doing it in bar 3, and I'll do it again in 6, and I just come out with some really raunchy unison bends. And then answer that with some double stops, and this is the first time we've seen the double stops. And really the unison bends are also double stops too. The first instance is just, it's using those top string fourths and those third and second string thirds. Again, bar 5, change up the feel, or the phrasing of those unison bends, and then roll right into another. It's rhythmically relative to what happened in bar 4, but it's still got those gritty thirds and fourths in there. It makes for a great first 8 bars. So that gets us through that first section of 8. We've still got 3 to go. Walking into the next 8, it's a reiteration of a lot of the themes that we started out in the first 2 solos and we've built up to. So a lot of that Dorian-esque remakes of what happened in the original pentatonic solo. So you'll notice a lot of the same licks, but this time in E minor. But the cool thing is since we're in 32 bars, we got those extra 2 bars added to each one of the sections of 4. You'll see some new stuff, such as in bar 8. In bar 12, we have this run on the A7 where we're working off that rhythmic motif that was first introduced in bar 4. So we're in that same juncture, that end of 4 bars, we got that same rhythm, but this time I'm just doing chord tones that are relative to A7. And it's just an easy way to keep things related to each other while still putting some variety in there. Next set of 4, at the very end of that, you have... Now I'm in that position of the Dorian, the Mixolydian scale for the 4 chord for A Mixolydian, and I'm using some 6 that are contained there, but I fill in the gap with a chromatic instance of 6, and it makes for a great line. And that gets us out of those first 8 bar, set of 16 bars. So we're at that first half of the solo. It's been flowing great, making use of all these great melodic ideas that were first laid out in those 2 solos. We get into the power wrist picking part. We do the descending lines. We get that first statement that ends on the root. It's great. It drives home the tonality of E minor, and it rolls us right into good use of the 6th being played over the minor 7, and it sets us up for something we haven't done yet. It's double stops, and it's got a lot of movement where you come in. Oops, sorry. It's a little tough one to wrap your head around, but once you get it going, it's a very slick lick where you have these movements of almost like ricocheting double stops. An octave thrown in, gets a mean flat 5-1, and then ended with a screaming unison bend. That sets up once again nicely for double stops. So we're following the idea that we set in the first 4 bars and the second 4 bars where we have unison bends into double stops. So see how we keep coming back and forth to themes that are played in the beginning, and we keep coming back and reiterating them, keeping the solo relative to each other and keeping it interesting while building it. So as we close off this section of 8 bars, I start getting into some chordal ideas. So these top string voicings are not just for rhythm playing. They could be, these are double stops as well. They're just thicker. They're 3-note double stops. So we have some successions of 16ths with some slides in there, and that brings us into octaves. We haven't really played with those much yet, and we have those happening full on right here. They sound so good when you make them into catchy melodies like that. So you don't want to catch yourself just jamming on it for too long. So simple melodies. That's getting us into the final 8 bars. You're within it now when you're playing those octaves. And once again, I can't get enough of this lick. I'm playing that hybrid pick, ascending lick. And this time it just breaks off into a different way to end it within the Dorian scale. You can end it any way you want, but that beginning lick is money. You know, it always works for you. Brings us into the last 4 bars. Once again, ripping through some octaves. So what I'm doing is I'm taking that first idea that I laid out, and I'm doing it here based off the flat 7. Now, I didn't want to play another repeating note because that sounds like an end. I wanted to set up for to play it again. Repetition, repetition. Relative ideas, repetition. And that gets us into the last 2 bars. And once again, hybrid picking, string skip in between. There's that cool counterpoint line. We're taking advantage of that half-step juncture. And then octaves one more time. And keep it consistent with that ending line that succinctly ends that solo. And that's it. 32 bars. And not one moment in that solo would the listener or the band find themselves in, you know, kind of noodling land. No way. Great stuff. Quality funk soloing right there. So there's a lot of things going on that we've talked about, and these are things that you play in the solo and then you need to put into your own soloing. Have fun with it.